Okay, so as you were saying, every time we divide a fraction, we get a decimal. But sometimes those decimals they repeat, they don't end. So that's why that's where we use bar notation. Let me explain what bar notation is. Bar notation is a symbol in which we put a bar over the number that repeats. In this case right here, for the first decimal, the number that repeats, as you can see, it's the 1. So the 1 will need to have a bar notation over it. We don't need to write 0.11111 and forever, right? We only write 0.1 and a bar notation over the 1. In the second example right here, we have a 0.61111 and forever. So the number that repeats is the 1, but the 6 doesn't repeat. So we put the 0.6, and then we put the 1, and since it repeats forever, we're going to put a bar over the number 1. Only the number 1, no the 6, because the 1 is the only one that repeats. In the next example right here, we see that the numbers that repeat are 61. It's 0.61, 61, 61, and so on. So what do we need to put is we need to put the 0.61. I'm sorry about my numbers. At 61. And the bar notation should go over the 61 because those are the numbers that repeat. Okay. In the next case, we have a 6.16. And as you can see, the number that repeats, it's the 0. So we're going to put 6.160 and the bar notation over the 0. And in the last case, we have the 6.161. And if you see right here, the number that repeats, it's the 161. So my bar notation goes over the 161. This is showing that the 161 are the numbers that repeat endless. Okay, good. Now, let's see an example with fractions as decimals. The book tells us, this is on page number 179, and the book tells us write 1/40 as a decimal and determine if the decimal is a terminating decimal. In part A, what we need to do is write the fraction as a decimal. Then we need to divide 1 by 40 using long division. In this case, remember that every time we're going to divide a fraction, the number that is on top goes inside the little house, and the number that is on the bottom goes outside the house. So right here, we have the 40 and the 1, okay? Now, let's do the division. We're going to use long division, okay? So, how many times can the 40 go into the 1? You can't, right? 0. So we place a 0 and then a point. Now, we get the first 0. How many times can the 40 go into the 10? It can't, right? So we put another 0. Now, how many times can the 40 go into the 100? It can go twice, 2 times, okay? Now we multiply 2 times 40, it's 80. So we're going to put 100 minus 80 is 20, okay? Now we need to put another 0 down. How many times can the 40 go into the 200? Okay, it can go 5 times. 5 times 40, it's 200. So 200 minus 200 is 0, okay? So how many times can the 40 go into the 0? 0. 0 times 40 is 0. We subtract them and it's 0. And we can continue with the zeros like forever and ever. But since it already ended in a 0, we don't need to put all the zeros over here. So my answer would be 0.025. Okay? And since it ends in a 0 right here, the division, this fraction or this decimal is a terminating decimal, okay? It is terminating, okay? Because the division ends in a 0, okay? Let me give you another example. In example number 2, we have another division. We need to write -5/6 or 5/6 as a decimal. And we need to determine if the decimal is terminating or not. So remember, the 5 goes inside the house and the 6 goes outside the house. And since my fraction is a negative, my answer would also be a negative. I always put the negative sign so I won't forget. So how many times can the 6 go into the 5? It can't. It doesn't fit. So it's a 0. But how many times can the 6 go into the 15? Okay. It can go 7 times. 7 times 6, 42. We subtract. Oh, it's an 8. It will be 8 times. Okay, 8 times 6, 48. So it's going to be a 48 right here. So 50 minus 48, it's 2. Okay, now we put a 0 down. How many times can the 6 go into the 20? It can go 3 times. Okay, 3 times 16, it's 18. Okay, so we put an 18 right here and we subtract 20 minus 18, it's 2. If you see, we're going to start seeing a pattern because we're going to get a 20 again. Okay, so that means that we're going to have a repeating decimal because the 6 can go into the 23 times and 3 times 16 is 18. So when we subtract it, we're going to get a 2 again and it will repeat forever and ever and ever. So the number that repeats right there, it's the 3. My answer would be -0.83. And I will have to put a bar notation over the 3 to indicate that the 3 will repeat forever. And is this a terminating decimal? No, it's not terminating because it will never end in a 0. It will have another number. So that's when we say it's not terminating. All right. Well, this is the way we divide, right? Where every time we divide, we put numbers that fit in the number that it's outside. And whenever it doesn't fit, we put a 0. Let me give you an example. I'm going to give you an example here for when we use more zeros. I'm going to use example number 8 in your practice from page 183. The fraction that we're going to divide is 17/24. Okay, so what we need to put, we're going to put the 17 inside the house and the 24 will go outside. How many times can the 24 go into the 17? It can't, it doesn't fit. So we put a 0 right there because it doesn't fit. We add our first 0. How many times can the 24 go into the 170? It can go 7 times. Now, 7 times 24, we do the math, okay? 7 times 4, 28. We have 2. 7 times 2, 14. And 2 that we have, 16. We subtract. 170 minus 168, it's 2. We add a 0. The 24 cannot go into the 20. So whenever we add a 0 and our number doesn't fit, we need to add a 0 on top and then add another 0 on the bottom. Okay, so how many times can the 24 go into the 200? It can go 8 times, right? 8 times 24, we do the math. 8 times 4, 32. We have 3. 8 times 2, 16. And 3 that we have, it's 19. We subtract. 200 minus 192, it's 8. We add a 0. How many times can the 24 go into the 80? It can go 3 times. Right? Now we multiply 3 times 24. We do the math. 3 times 4, 12. We have 1. 3 times 2 is 6. And 1, 7, right? 72. So 80 minus 72 is 8. If you see here, we're going to start repeating the same number. Which number are we going to repeat? Well, the number that fit in the 80, which is going to be 3 times. So my answer would be 0.7083, and the number that repeats is the 3. And it's a not terminating decimal because it never ends in a 0. Okay, very good. I hope it helped you a little bit to understand this. Just to let you know, if you have any questions, just come to my homeroom or ask me during class. All right. Have an awesome day.